Brilliant. That's really helpful. Okay, so first thing I want to do is just go through what we're going to cover today. So first question, which seems blindingly obvious, is why do we measure things? And then what are the pitfalls about measuring metrics? And it's become apparent to me that quite often measuring metrics can actually kind of get in the way of what you're setting out to do. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about what good metrics look like, but we'll also just touch on some of the detail around that, around bounces and around all the kinds of things that happen with email marketing. And that may be of help to you as well. We're going to look at messaging. Now, that's kind of my high horse here because we're measuring things so that we can see how effective the work we're doing within the email marketing arena. But if we could do it better, we'd get better metrics. And some of the information that we've got and the experience that we have may be of help to you. I'd also just like to make the distinction between metrics, messaging, and then the messages we're delivering to either a B2B or B2C audience, and whether you're selling or providing a service or a product. I'd like to also then share a little bit about what we do here at Essentiamail. And hopefully that's going to give you some takeaways, and then there's a conclusion. I'm also just going to touch on why email marketing isn't a silver bullet and it can't just work by itself. And it's an interesting point for us that we've worked with clients that have come to us in a sort of last ditch attempt to get some business, and it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for them, or we've said we don't want to work for you. And I just want to just touch on some of those points really. So really, why do we measure? Well, the first question is obvious, feels pretty obvious, that we measure things against other marketing channels, and can you prove an ROI? And in some businesses where you're doing your own email marketing, you may be accountable to a director or to other people within your business about what are you doing this email marketing? Wouldn't it be better to do something else? The other thing here is that Google Analytics and Lead Forensics fit in quite neatly here in terms of measuring the effectiveness of what you're doing, as in you can find out from your Google Analytics who's coming, you can find out how many people are coming to your site. But as you know, with email marketing, you can land people on specific pages, and then it becomes interesting to find out whether or not what you're doing is effective, as in, are those people engaging with your website? We're also going to talk a little bit, well, Lead Forensics will also help you do that, and it will give you more insight than analytics in terms of it will actually show you the businesses that are engaging with your email marketing. The whole thing around poor email data, old and out of date, has a massive effect on the statistics. And we'll come on to that when we look at some of the actual statistics that we think are good and where we think they're bad, where high bounce rates significantly tarnish your sending reputation. And it's very easy to ignore them and say, well, we bought this data cheap and it was, it doesn't work brilliantly and we get a high bounce rate. But in actual fact, it's actually doing your sending reputation and your business, it's doing it no good at all. Then there are all the kinds of excuses: the wrong time of day, when should you send emails, generic email addresses, what value do they have? And I guess the point here is that we lose sight of the objectives of email marketing as a marketing channel, and we get hung up on a number of the areas around the numbers, as in we did this and we did that and we got 15% or 2% or whatever it might be. But isn't it at the end of the day what we're setting out to do with email marketing is to deliver sales to our business? Now, the whole thing is sales can sort of be seen as a bit of a dirty word. And what I use the word sales as really just as an engagement, because mainly for most of us here, mainly in the business to business arena, what we're doing is we're putting our proposition, or in our case, our client's proposition, in front of the people that could potentially buy that service. So we're going to talk about delivery opens, bounces, and so on, but it is really important, I'll come back to it probably more than once. What else could you be doing so that you get better metrics, you get better delivery, and you get more engagement? Because ultimately, that's what we're setting out to do. So I'm going to show you this chart now, this chart, and this is, I'm just going to provide a slightly bigger one of these here. And this is a typical statistics document that we will send out to our clients after a broadcast. And I'm just going to touch on these. Now, for some of you, you'll know this all very well. Others might not. I'm just going to touch on what's important here and whether we think these are good figures. So we're going to start with total amount of emails sent, which is kind of obvious, as in 35,631 emails sent. The key here is we delivered here 97.7%. It's a very good delivery figure. Now, why is that important? Well, delivery, as I mentioned before, is an indication of the quality of the data that you're sending to. And if you're sending to bad data and you're getting higher bounce rates and your delivery isn't very good, what that actually does is it tarnishes your reputation. And it then makes it more and more difficult and will ultimately lead to you being blacklisted or other issues. So if you've bought data that you don't know where it came from and it isn't good quality and you're not getting good metrics, it may have been cheap, as it so often is. And we've seen examples where email marketing data, you buy 1.8 million double opted in, and you've got to do it by the end of the week, and it's 295 quid. You've really, really got to stand away from that because it's actually doing you harm in the long run. So the next figure then is your unique opens. And unique opens, and this is where you can flatter to deceive with your open figures, that if somebody clicks 2 or 3 times on a link or an email, it gives you a total opens. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself here. In terms of how many opens you're getting with your particular email broadcast, this has a lot to do with subject lines, but there are some issues here, as in if somebody's going to unsubscribe an email, then the open rate, they may open the email to delete it or to unsubscribe. So we're happy with 12.89, but again, opens has a lot to do with the kind of database that you're marketing to. And I'm going to mention this now as it's really important. You send out 35,000 emails and a few things happen. So one of them is people ignore it or don't open it. Some of them will open it, and some of them will click through to links. So you've already managed with that simple send of an email. You now have 3 groups, and maybe emails. I mean, we believe that emails should then be targeted according to those groups, because those that have opened an email and read it know who your company is, and therefore they're more likely to engage with you, and therefore perhaps they need a slightly different message. So I was ahead of myself then, but anyway, just go back to the unique clicks. Unique clicks are those clicks where somebody is a new person who has engaged with you rather than somebody who might have clicked 3 or 4 times. And again, to get a figure around 5.31% is a good figure. Now, the next thing, and perhaps for me the most important figure here, is this click to open rate. So if you think about it for a minute, you send an email out, somebody opens it, they click on a link. So they are interested in the content that you've got in your email. And if you like, any email that doesn't have a call to action or something that's of interest, it becomes very difficult to measure the effectiveness of it. Now, the other thing that's really important here with these figures is that we're using email marketing as a sales tool, as a sales channel, a marketing tool, if you like. And what we would really like is we would like somebody to pick up the phone from the email, phone you up and said, we love what you're doing, please can we work with you? But the reality is different, and we do rely on people clicking on emails to look at a website, to look at a blog post, something that's of interest to them. We'll come on to that in more detail. So unsubscribes then, again, self-explanatory, and it is a good indicator of the of how good your email marketing is, because if you can reduce your unsubscribes, and this is a nice low figure of just over 0.5%, and we're happy with that. It means that your emails are interesting and they are well targeted, and you're far less likely for somebody to report it as a bit of spam, and you're far less likely to get into trouble with it in the long run. Because email marketing has to be seen as an ongoing, long-term process here. I'll come on to more about that when I talk about the difference between services and products. So as you can see down at the bottom here, which I will highlight for you, you've got a bunch of subject lines down here, and this is a chart that we've just put together as a typical of what we send out, and you'll then notice that you have different numbers of recipients. We've got the unique opens here, an open rate, which again averaging 12.5%. We've got the unique clicks, we've got a click-through rate, and we've got bounce. Now, bounce is a really significant part of any email marketing, and let's just make the distinction between a hard bounce and a soft bounce. So a hard bounce is a permanent reason an email can't be delivered. There are a number of reasons here as well. Recipient's email address doesn't exist, and that's very true. If you think that email marketing data degrades at anywhere between 30 and 40%, there's a good chance that your data, well, it's true of everybody. Everybody's data is always out of date. It's to what extent it's out of date. So people move and email addresses are then removed from the system. So the email address doesn't exist anymore because Steve has left ABC Engineering. The domain name doesn't exist, or the domain name is often, I've seen, spelled wrong. The recipient server has completely blocked delivery. Now, this comes down to the quality of what you're sending out. If you load emails with lots of images, and crucially, if you're sending to multiple people within one business, the firewall will see that and say, I don't like this. I'm not going to receive it. And we've seen that, and I'll come on to a good example of that. So again, you can look at the stats here. These are good stats. But you can also think about, well, what could we do so that we get better stats? Because if you're measuring what you're doing and you're interested in that, it's because you're accountable to your business to spend their marketing pound wisely. So I'm not going to go on any more on that. If you want a sample of this, you're very, very welcome. So just going back to the main presentation then. One of the other things that's really important and something that crops up for me all the time is we talk a lot about delivering emails, and we talk about things in percentage terms. Now, if, for example, you doubled the number of Twitter users you had from between 40 to 80, or even from 80 to 160, or whatever that figure might be, you think you're doing really well. And this is the problem with statistics, is that because we're talking in terms of percentages, we don't know what the real numbers are. And I wrote a blog recently, and it was called How Many Tweets Make a Sale? And I'm just going to go through this because it's quite interesting. I think it's quite interesting. Other people have said the same. And this comes from the world of PPC, or paid advertising on Google. Now, for the sake of those that might not know, what is an impression? So an impression is somebody searches for solicitors, Bristol, or trampolines, or whatever it might be, water cooler. And every time an ad or some words appear on that Google window, it's called an impression. So if your ad appears, or your words appear because you're a solicitor in Bristol and somebody Googles you, it's an impression. And you would reasonably expect between 1 and 2%, or 1 or 2 out of 100 impressions, they're going to actually click on your ad. So that's a 1 in 50 chance, between a 1 in 100 and 1 in 50 chance. Of the people that land on your site because they've clicked on your advertisement or your words, only 2% of those people are going to engage with you and be interested, and perhaps 14 might buy. So if you wanted 5 sales, and again, forgive me, but your businesses are all different here, but if you have a product or a service that you may aspire to get 5 sales, well then how many of those impressions, how many times do you need to be in front of a potential client so they're going to go, yeah, I'm going to go with ABC Engineering, or I'm going to buy this? Well, it's a huge number. It's 875,000, and it's approximately. So you need to be in front of a lot of people to make a sale. And you remember that the example that I've just given to you is around paid search, where people are actually searching for your products or services. So clearly, if you're going to get good stats and you're going to get good engagement, your messaging's got to be absolutely spot on. It's got to be as good as it can be. And when somebody clicks and has a look through those very valuable click-throughs that come to your website, it's got to be a good experience too. So moving on to my high horse, which is the place that I feel is so important. And if the metrics are going to get better, it's going to be because the messaging is better and the experience the customer has is going to be better. So any new client that comes to us, we're interested in the business verticals. We're interested in segmenting their marketplace so that the messaging we're sending to maybe the accountants or the solicitors or the architects is different to the message that we might be sending to the construction companies, because their needs are all different. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate how good each of these verticals is going to be, and then we're going to position so that we're selling with a language that they understand. So, for example, firms of solicitors and accountants have fee earners. It's the fee earners that make the money, and we need to talk that language. They tend to be called firms. They don't tend to be called companies or businesses. They call themselves firms, and that's fine. Just talk their language. So long and short messages here. Well, email marketing is a disruptive medium. It isn't somebody searching, and it isn't somebody coming to your shop. It's somebody whose day you are interrupting with a message. So the shorter the message and the more interesting it can be, the more likely you are to engage. I've written here, what can we tell them about our company? And you know what? With any kind of marketing, it's not about you. It's about the services you provide. It's about the pain you can alleviate. So the fact that you've been in business for 50 years and the fact that you're passionate is not really that important. So the other thing that comes up quite often, and it's really important, is pictures. And in the world of business to business, people have very little time. Most of you guys are in that place. You're business to business providers. Now think about the emails that you receive every morning. Before this webinar, when you got into work, there were emails there. Those emails with pictures and images quite often don't get through. But when they do get through, you know one thing for sure. You know that somebody is about to sell you something. So messaging is absolutely key here, and I'll come on to that a bit later on. Quite often our clients, will want to send an email. Can we send an email every week? Because if we really shout at people, then they're more likely to buy from us. Well, of course, we know that's not true. And if you haven't got something fresh and interesting to tell them each time, it just becomes a bit of noise in the background. You may not delete it, you may not unsubscribe, but it just becomes noise. Some people even want to broadcast every day, and that's just not the way to do it. If you send out emails that have got the dreaded word newsletter in it, I should do that in red really. Can I do that in red? Yes, I can. So newsletter. People don't read newsletters. Email marketing is a disruptive medium, and you get it. And people who don't know you that well aren't likely to engage with you if you send them something and it's got newsletter in the subject line. There is an important distinction here, of course. Now, I like cycling, and I'm a keen mountain biker, and I get emails from Chain Reaction Cycles, and I like those. I don't look at that many of them. I still like them, and I'm still happy to receive them. And if I get a newsletter, that's fine. So that's important, just to make that distinction between business to business and business to consumer, and that's a classic case. The other thing that kind of fascinates me is so often emails come from marketing at, or have no reply, or are sent at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you want to do what we're talking about today and get better stats, you need to send emails at times that are appropriate to the marketplace that you're sending them. So for example, we send emails largely Monday through Thursday. We don't email on Fridays. We tend not to email first thing on a Monday morning. There are exceptions, and there are businesses that are around at the weekend and are more likely to read things at the weekend. But it's an exception. Now, yesterday I got this email here, and it is a classic. So it's from a marketing company, Averick Direct. I've never worked with them. They're in the States. And I emailed them back to say that this is the dullest email I've received all year. And I hope you agree that none of us are interested in Brendan Porter, who's going to join, and none of us are interested that Brendan's going to be assisting Doreen with various tasks and projects to help support and grow and blah, blah, blah. And it amazes me that if anybody's going to do any measurement, why aren't they looking at the content they're sending out and adopting the so what attitude? Have a look at the email content that you send out, and I say, is anybody actually going to be interested in that? Really, really important point. So good content matters because it's a journey to a sale. And again, sorry to use the word sale. So even if you're a charity and what you want is you want engagement with people that can donate, or to anybody else associated with the charity, to all your helpers and so on, then a sale is engagement. That's what I'm using that term. But crucially, to get the engagement, they need to know who you are. You need to engage in content. You need to maintain a long-term relationship, and you need to reassure, you need to tempt, you need to sell. And think about the STP thing, because if you're talking the language that is expected of you, then your chances of engaging are much higher, and therefore your click to open rate will increase, and that's perhaps the most important metric within everything we've talked about so far. It has to be pertinent, it has to be timely, engaging, even shareable. Now, the emails that we create business to business for business to business clients generally deal with one point, one subject line, one bit of subject matter. And that means it's shareable. And what we see quite often is we'll hear from a client, or we'll see the evidence when the emails come back via our clients that the email's been forwarded. And that is such a reassuring place to be when somebody has forwarded an email to somebody who it might be of interest to within their business. Now, I mentioned before that things have to be short. I talked about short emails and short messaging. Now, here's an example. Now, this is a poster that you'll recognize. It's quite old now, it's a few years old now, maybe 5 years old. It's a Specsavers poster. Now, where this is similar as a marketing channel to email marketing is it has to work really, really quickly. It's a fleeting medium. You're driving past, you're on the bus, you're on a bike, however, you don't see this for very long, and you need to understand it very, very quickly. So, I'm wearing glasses at the moment, I'm a specky. It's got a picture of a woman and a man with glasses. It's got a very simple proposition, 2 for 1 from 69 quid. And then it's got the old line here still from Specsavers that should have gone to Specsavers. They don't use that now. And when you're next out in your cars later on today, or you're on getting home, however you're going to be doing that, have a look. You'll see these posters, and they meet the criteria of this old marketing acronym, ADA. Attract somebody's attention, interest them, create some desire, and tell them what to do next. Think about the emails that you're sending out and ask yourself those questions. Is it doing that? Or is it doing this wherever it's gone? Is it telling you that Brendan's joined the company? Nobody really cares about Brendan. Poor old Brendan. The other thing, of course, is important is that you can put things in front of people, but they're not going to buy them because they're the wrong thing. Now, good old Alan Sugar, I have a lot of respect for him. He launched in 2000, so 16 years ago, an emailer, and I don't know whether any of you will remember that. It was a bit of a damp squib, and it was a gadget that sat next to or attached to your phone at home in the hallway or whatever, or even at work, I'm not sure. And it was for sending emails. So this was the days before everybody had a lot of people had a laptop, and certainly a long way before anybody had a smartphone. But it was a classic case of a product that nobody wanted, and it flopped, and somebody lost their job over it. So what I'm asking you to do is to ask yourself a question. What do I need to put in front of a potential customer so that they react by saying, yeah, I want one of those, or I'm interested in that, or I'd like to find out more? And it's a real challenge because you need to attract somebody with a good subject line. And not everybody. You need to attract the people that are relevant to your marketplace, to your products, to your services. You need to interest them with whatever you're selling to them or offering to them, and it should be advice, it should be knowledge, it shouldn't be a hard sell. And you want them to react appropriately. You want them to come back to you. You want an inbound inquiry, ideally, or at least you want them to go and have a look at some interesting assets on a website. Now, I'm just going to pick up on the whole B2B, B2C thing. B2B, you need to deal with people's pain, the pain that they have at work, from a slow-running computer to a stain on the carpet, to an accounts query, to corporation tax, to all the painful things that we all need to deal with every day at work. B2C is slightly different because you tend to be working with people where things are nicer, like a wine bar or a nice hotel or a holiday or some of those nicer things. And in that case, you can deliver content with imagery. You can deliver a newsletter. So a lot of those people are opted into that process. And the differences between B2B and B2C is stark because B2C data is, generally speaking, more expensive email marketing data. It's more difficult. And it is, although you have the opportunity to do some great targeting, your results are never really as focused, or can never be as focused as B2C. The other point here is about services and products. Companies that offer a service, like we do here at Essentiamail, struggle around imagery and struggle around what else can we say about our service that makes us different. And in reality, nobody's services are that different. There are other email marketing companies, there are other solicitors and accountants who basically do the same job. The most compelling aspect of selling a service is not what you think about your company, it's about what your customers think about your company. And if you think about the way you buy things as a consumer, if you look on Amazon or you look so often now, or you go to a hotel or a restaurant, you might look at TripAdvisor and you're looking for 5 stars. You want the reassurance that other people who've bought that service, other people like you who've bought that service, are also confident of that service. Now, in the world we live in, which kind of borders on the whole creative advertising marketing space, I look at a lot of marketing companies that we work with, because we work well with marketing companies, and they are hopeless at selling themselves effectively. They all talk about passion, we understand. And same with other services where you would expect a firm of solicitors to understand, and we listen to our clients. Well, you would expect nothing less than that. Now, with a product, it's a bit different, because products, or commodities as they are can often be seen at, it's very easy to rate that I like this product. It's a much simpler selling process. But it is important to recognize that there are differences here, and there are differences in the way engagement works, because a product can sell straight away. And if you're an e-commerce business, you're selling directly off the website. It's much easier to see, right, we're putting this effort in, we're getting this back. With services, the pain, the time, the customer journey is much, much longer. So while you want your stats tomorrow, as in we send out an email, 10,000 contacts got emailed, was it successful? Well, you may not know for some time. You'll know the stats and the metrics, but you won't know if you actually made a sale, because that person may not make that decision for a month, 2 months, 3 months, or however long. Now, I've got a couple of other little bits that I like, and I can send these to you if you like. The first is from a guy that I bumped into at a creative agency called St. Nick's in London, and he did a little blog on how to win with words, and I really like this. There's only 10 of these things, but the one that I particularly like, don't tell me about your grass seed, talk to me about your lawn. And it's so true, and there's some real nuggets in here. So when you're next writing content, and again, if you want this, I'll send it to you, just read those 10 points, and does it actually work, the email that you've written? Or is it a bit of a so what? Is it talking about how good you are? Something else that I like is this Mercedes ad. And I'll just blow this so you can see that copy. Doesn't tell you about performance, doesn't tell you about fuel economy, doesn't have a price, but it's a great bit of copy. It's a really compelling piece of copy about buying a car and buying a belief in this particular case. And this Merc ad is 10 years old. It don't look it. It looks as good today as it ever has done. So I'm going to show you now a couple of examples where we've written some content for a client, and there's been a response, an inbound inquiry, which is always nice. And I just want to pick up on a couple of points about that. So a good email for us, for a video company, talks around showing off your prowess with film. And from that, it's a very short email. I'll come on to the anatomy of what a good email looks like. It's landed at the right time, and this is really the point. There's no quick win here with email marketing, as in you need to be, you don't know when your customers want to buy. So if you're there when they want you, your stats will look better. Your return on investment is then provable. Your timing is good. How much do you charge? And another email here, which I really like. Now, this was back to the STP thing about segmentation, targeting, and positioning. This is a learning and development, a training company called Farscape Development. And one of their segments are law firms. So we talk to law firms with a subject line, can top fee earners be good leaders too? And the email starts, can top talent rise through the ranks to become good leaders as well as top performers, or will they brush aside their colleagues, leaving chaos in their wake? Now, we understand when we wrote this email that that is the pain that companies often have, that you get good talent coming into the business and they're not good leaders, they're just good at what they do. And the response from that, I'm interested in talking to you further about the email below. Fantastic. Now, you could send a newsletter, of course, which is just lazy. And this is a creative business here. And they haven't segmented their market at all. They haven't looked at who they market to. What they've done is they've done a newsletter and called it an autumn newsletter. Welcome to our latest newsletter. We've had a busy summer. We don't care about the busy summer. It doesn't satisfy any of the criteria that we've talked about attracting interest and attention. And it's so important, yet it gets missed. So let's just remember a few of the things that we need to do so that you're going to get good stats, because that's what you need and that's what you want. Emails have to be appropriate to them. They have to be pertinent. They have to be information giving. They need to be humble. Anybody claiming, and I'm sure you've all had this experience, somebody phones you up, we can save you money on your phone bills. And it's like, but you don't know that. It's just arrogant. It needs to be interesting and it needs to be helpful. And if you do that, you'll elicit better response. You'll get better click-throughs, better ROI at the end of the day. So, bit of anatomy. This is a recent client of ours, and they work in the grubby world of recruitment. And I say that it's just one of those things. Recruitment is not a nice place, and there are a lot of people doing pretty bad email marketing, hammering out CVs and so on. So just briefly, we send emails. Emails have to come from a real person, not from a department. They need to be delivered at a sensible time of the day, Tuesday, March 15th. That's not long ago, actually. At a sensible time. It needs to have a graphics-free header, because I don't want anybody to think we're selling here. And if you're going to have a logo, put it at the bottom, but keep it as simple as you can. It's got a pertinent subject line. Why recruit X services personnel? It doesn't say we can help you with your recruitment needs, because it's not about us. It's about the recipient's needs. And then we've got a simple touch of their pain. Recruiting ex-service personnel may not be an avenue you've considered, yet the benefits of employing someone that has been in the armed forces are numerous. So, simple call to action, simple validation, a proper sign-off, and a success. Now, another point here is that if we go back to the whole marketing segmentation, positioning, if you know who you're talking to, then on your website, create a page that's relevant to them. So if you're selling a software service around invoice processing, around processing thousands of invoices that come into your business, and you know that those people may use Sage, then why don't you send them to a page that is absolutely for them? So they don't do any navigation, because nobody wants to be doing navigation. They just to be landed. So let's just take it from the start. We write an email. It's got some content in it about invoice processing, processing thousands of emails, and those invoices ending up in Sage 200, Dynamic 0, or other accounting systems. And it's find out a bit more about it here. There's a link on it and a click on it. You can have a little look at it. So the whole thing around the bit of jargon, CRO, conversion rate optimization, you will increase your conversions, and that reflects in your stats, of course, if you are putting people where they want to land, and you're not just putting them on a home page. Now, by all means, your logo can send people to the home page because they want to have a look at the business. That's fine. But the key element here is you want people to phone you up or engage with you. And that's really how you go about doing that. Now, I've got a friend who runs a really good PPC agency. So they're doing paid media, paid search, biddable media, and they have a landing page scorecard. And I really like this. Now, it's designed for PPC, but in reality, it's no different from what we do in email marketing, where we send an email out and it has links in it. Those links go to websites. Now, again, if you'd like this, my email address is at the back of this presentation. Just drop me an email and I'll gladly send you all these little bits. So this is a long list here. I've just done a few here. And it's a really useful little tool. Have a look at where you want somebody to land and ask, is it doing the job here? Is it answering all the questions we need to do here? Is there good advocacy from other people who bought our services or products? So there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and the essence of what I've been talking to you about today is We've talked about stats, we've talked in detail about some of those aspects, but if you actually want somebody to buy from you, you need to make the whole experience a pleasurable one and not get unsubscribed and get that engagement. So here are a few pointers. Good content, or content is king. That is absolutely central to anything you're doing, and it is the difference between success and failure with a big capital F, because if you're not engaging with the people you want to communicate with, to sell to, dirty word again, they're not going to buy from you. Now, good copy, good content is difficult to write. So what we do here at Essentiamail, we've got writers that live in this world, and it's often an interesting place because clients say to us, we want to say this and we want to say that, and we want to tell them about this and we want to show them these amazing photos. But wait, you need to take a step back and look at what they need, not what you want to tell people. It's so important. The people that click through, the people that open your emails are the most important here. And it's interesting that we've got a database, bizarrely, a database that we created around people that have been to our webinars. And we regularly get better than 50% in terms of an open rate on that database, because these are people that are interested in what we do. They live in our world, the marketing world. It's so important also to remember you're asking for your recipient's time. The disruptive part of this form of marketing. Nobody has searched for an email. They haven't asked for an email. You just sent them one. Don't be lazy. One size does not fit all. If you want better stats, you need to understand that you may end up writing 5, 6, maybe 10 different kinds of emails every time you send out to your database. Look at your content and apply the so what test. It's painful because sometimes you may find you haven't got something that is interesting. Plan your campaigns and don't get derailed by your colleagues. Now, the derailed by your colleagues is an interesting bit. And what it means is that your colleagues may say to you, we want to talk about this subject, this product. But so often, the subject or the service that starts the conversation isn't necessarily about what you're trying to sell to somebody. So stick by your guns, stick by the plans you got within your campaigns, and don't get derailed. I can talk to you more about that if you're interested. Just get in touch with me. You need to have a great website with lots of relevant landing pages. Now, those pages may not even exist within the navigation, but if somebody lands in a place that is about them, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's about tax planning, whatever it might be, land people where they want to be, so that, and show testament from people like them, and then they're far more likely to engage with you. And remember, email marketing isn't a silver bullet. The best way this works with email marketing is to join it up with a telemarketing business. And we work with a couple of telemarketing companies. We have one favorite that we work with, and they do telemarketing for us, and we get good engagement from them, or we get conversations, good conversations. It all links up. You can't send emails out and hope, oh, we'll send out one email, let's see how we get on. It's a longer term process, but it's a fantastic way to stay in touch with people. And then finally, the point that I started off with, don't get hung up on the metrics. Look deeper into why you're not getting an ROI, or you're not getting what you expect or what you would like from the marketing that you're doing. It's perhaps the most important thing here. Open rates, and we get asked this question often. Somebody will come to us for the first time and say, so what kind of open rates can I expect? Well, it depends entirely on the data, on the proposition, on so many different parameters. And if actually what you want is you want somebody to do business with you, it's a bit of a longer term strategy. So yes, they're important. It's crucial that you know what your bounce rates are and that you're delivering the emails that are on your list. And lots of data providers will say anything over 5% bounce will will make up the shortfall and so on. And that's all well and good, but you know you shouldn't be getting such high bounce rates anyway. It's a really important point. So I hope that's been helpful. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. I hope I haven't, I know I've talked about stats, but I've talked a lot about content, because content drives good stats. And if there's anything that I haven't explained, please come back to me afterwards. I'd be really, really happy. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Remember, if you'd like some of the things that I can send to you, please let me know. And yeah, thanks very much for your time.